Hello guys, it's Bryan here, and this is the result of lots of hard work.
That's right, everyone. What if I told you there was a new Christian prowling around on the internet? But don't let me introduce you to him. Let him do the talking for me.
Many people know that I have high-functioning autism.
Yeah, no, that's bullshit. Everybody knew that.
Many people don't know that I have this sort of ability to memorize a lot of things most of the time.
Wow, he has the ability to memorize a lot of things most of the time. I think most people who have a skull attached to their spine have that ability, Bryan. But you're probably wondering to yourself, Gallagher, why did you call him a furry Christian? Well, he's a furry. Oh wait, God, no, not another fucking furry, please, no! And he also has documented almost every last thing in his life on the internet for us to enjoy. Let's start with Chapter 1. I was born on May 7th, 1999, at 60th Medical Group, a hospital that is a part of Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield, California, in the county of Solano. I was diagnosed with autism. I was living in California for a few weeks until my mom took us all on a flight. During that time, lead us to a drive after the flight to Charlotte, North Carolina. I was 4 years old. I was a little student at watching like Byran series. I was English, science. I was solving also like back in the show. I would get a Okay. I can't take that anymore. Needless to say, that Bryan has definitely shared a little bit too much about his life. All the things that he had to do to move across the country, getting stuffed in a freezer by his dad, having autism, thinking that mashed potatoes were made of bones, and having a lusty eye for a certain cartoon dog. Also, I'm pretty sure the purple dancing eggplant you threw out your aunt's window was actually just a dildo.
Because of Gallagher's very chronic Joe Biden syndrome, dementia, he totally forgot to mention the fact that the reason he stopped reading that entire fucking thing was because we had already read it on my live stream. And while we're on the subject of me, you should totally join Pootopia, the greatest thing to exist since methamphetamines. The link will be in the description if Gallagher remembers.
There's a couple things in this biography that we need to put a pin in and remember them for later because they're going to be kind of important, right? So number one, the lusty eye for the dog. And number two, the fact that if he didn't believe in Christmas like a good little Christian boy, he was going to get slaughtered and eaten for Christmas. And no, I'm not making that part up. So I know the last two things probably sound infinitely more interesting than Bryan's claim to fame, his ragdorcha story, how he went from a humble blogger to, well, whatever he is now. But we have to cover this part. You see, it all started when Bryan created a blog on the website medium.com where he probably said the most realistic thing that he's ever said. A furry on the internet who has built a name for himself by any means necessary. This isn't hyperbole. You see, Bryan's brain does not have the ability to process hyperbole. He is literal. He means this when he says this, and I can prove it. First, let's start with what I can only describe as a menagerie of YouTube channels. There's, of course, Bryan Mullins the Fox, the main channel. Bryan Mullins the Fox, the secondary channel. Bryan Mullins the Fox, the tertiary channel. Bryan Mullins the Fox, the topic. That's Bryan Mullins the Fox, the archive channel. This archive one's gonna get real redundant soon. Bryan Mullins the Fox, comedy archive. Bryan Mullins the Fox, rant archive. Bryan Mullins the Fox, drama archive. Bryan Mullins the Fox, old video archive. Bryan Mullins. Bryan Mullins Pretty Furry channel. The Roast Game Records, and my personal favorite, Bryan Mullins the Fox research. I mean, look at that picture. You know, I should just be your manager. Delete all these channels except for Bryan Mullins the Fox comedy, and then put this picture over that. Bam. Dude, that is perfect. Which gives us a grand total of 14 channels. Holy shit. 14 channels, and only one of them broke the 3-digit subscriber mark, and that's his main channel. And you're probably asking yourself right now, Gallagher, why are you crapping all over him? He's got 12,000 subs. Well, let's take a little bit of a look into that and figure out how he garnered these subs. That's right. Almost all of his subs were gained off of views he got on videos that he uploaded from songs that didn't belong to him, or Disney trailers that didn't belong to him, or him taking trailers of things that already existed and putting his own fucking name on it. Hey everyone, Future Gallagher here, the Deus Ex Machina that comes in like the genie that stops the whole movie to give you an expositional dump whenever there's new information that needs to be put out during the video that I discovered post-edit. What past Gallagher said here was slightly inaccurate, but not for the reasons you might think. You see, on Bryan Mullins the Fox Wikitopia, it says that he has over 4.4 thousand videos, which is not accurate of his current 700 videos that he has on his channel. I discovered in my research, thanks to a cohort of mine, that Bryan did in fact have this number of videos on his channel. You see, he would take other pieces of content, mirror the images, and then upload them onto YouTube. He would do this all day. This is how he gained all his subscribers. When YouTube updated their copyright policies, Bryan's channel got struck, so he deleted over 4,000 videos, which is why only few of the copyright material still remains on his channel. How do I know this? Of course, Bryan puts it on his DeviantArt for us all to see. He even took a screenshot of the copyright claim that was sent to him, so he made it too easy for us. Alright, on with the video now. And what did Mr. Mullins do with this ill-gotten inheritance of subs? Well, he used it to try to advertise his podcast channel, his blog channel, and most importantly of all, his music channel. And look, I'm gonna be real, if you haven't heard the Rose Game Records yet, you need to check it out. Not for the reasons why you think, just look, I'll just let the video play and you can decide for yourself why you need to see this. But I promise you, you won't regret it.
Girl, you're so fine, your blood's gonna taste like hot cherry wine. Girl, you're so fine, my blood's gonna taste like hot red wine. Girl, you're so fine, your blood's gonna taste like hot cherry wine. Girl, you're so fine, my blood's gonna taste like hot red wine. Don't you know that when there's smoke? Boing, boing.
So, like I said, it speaks for itself, and I think it would be a excellent figure piece at the head of the Bryan Mullins the Fox comedy channel. So as far as his earlier statement that he is going to make a name for himself by any means necessary between blogging, gaming, commentary, reaction, music, being a movie director, you prove the old saying true: if you throw enough shit at the wall, something is gonna stick. It truly may be a mystery for the rest of time as to exactly when Bryan Mullins decided to come out as a furry. If you take his word for it, he became a furry on...
Ever since I've been a furry, February 27th, 2018.
which, ironically enough, actually lines up with the last video he made on his pre-furry channel that is defunct, which is really strange when you think about it, considering he's uploaded 7 videos since then, 2 of which uploaded as recently as July of 2023. Unfortunately, there's not really that much interesting here. You see, Bryan Mullins is not really any different from any other furry when it comes to his degenerate online behavior. You can go and look at his DeviantArt yourself. No, I will not link it in the description box below. You can just Google Bryan Mullins the Fox and find it yourself. It's full of all kinds of anthropomorphic nudity, animal genitalia on human-like bodies, even some wolf creatures that are of questionable age. So yeah, have fun. Maybe he deleted that all by now, but really, who knows? And really, who fucking cares? It's disgusting. I will be linking in the description box below is what I asked you to put a pin in earlier. His weird fan fiction that involves molesting a dog from All Dogs Go to Heaven Too. See, this is when I think that Bryan Mullins really became a furry, when he first locked eyes with this cartoon dog. You can look throughout his entire history of his life. This animal has been an obsession of his. Hell, he loved this dog so much that in 2015 he re-uploaded the song I Got You Babe by Sonny and Cher, dedicating it to himself and the dog's love. Well, you know what they say, you can't come between a man and man's best friend. Am I right? He states that now he doesn't like it anymore, but why then, Bryan? Do you still ask your community if it was weird that you even liked it in the first place? Yeah, sure, 10 years ago, my ass. Why not just move on? Sure, we all had our weird, cringy phases when we were kids, but most of them did not involve rape fantasies with cartoon dogs. Also, there's the magnum opus of his online creativity, his eldritch horror, his man-made horror beyond human comprehension. I warn you, if you don't want to see this, turn back now, because, well, you'll never be able to unsee it. I'm just fucking with you. I posted it at the beginning of the video anyway, so...
Long story short, it took me a long time. But now it's worth it.
Was it really, though? Well, this is it, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've been waiting for, the entire reason why you're probably watching the video, the infamous roast game. Now, there's probably no correlation between the idea that Bryan thinks that 18 million kids were slaughtered between 1998 and 2016, although it's kind of hard to pin that one down because sometimes he swaps between 2016 and 2017. And the fact that in his autobiography he claims that when he was a baby, his mother and grandmother got into a fight over whether or not he should be cooked and eaten for Christmas because he wasn't being a good Christian boy. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of the world famous fact that is the roast game, let me break it down for you by doing the honest thing and reading the definition for how the roast game works from Bryan Mullins himself. The fact families literally ate their own children as their Christmas roasts after slaughtering them for not believing in Christmas from 1998 to the summer of 2017. So why the summer of 2017, you might be asking? Well, I asked myself the same question because last time I checked, Christmas was in the winter, but what do I know? It probably has nothing to do with the fact that they stopped eating children when they turned 18, and Bryan Mullins is born in May, and he turned 18 in 2017. Probably just a coincidence. But I digress, and the definition does go on. The roast game is pretty simple. First, you must ask any family member what is special about a holiday roast. The family member would have the tendency to guess assumptively ham, turkey, beef. You say no to the family member, then you ask them who or what do you think is special. The family member says, I believe children are special, because obviously out of all the words in the English lexicon, that is the only answer that someone can say. Then you must respond, so you eat children for a Christmas roast. the family member would freak out at you because he knew the family ate children and he is surprised that you knew too. The whole point of the game is to get your point across, which is the idea that the family eats children at its Christmas roast, and you interview and prove your common knowledge and realizing of the idea or traditions that families have. If they freak out, they've already admitted it. Asides, which is not a word by the way, it is easily provable by the fact the roast game itself is easy proof that families were eating their own children after slaughtering them. Really, Bryan, if it was so easy, then how come you're the only fucking person talking about it? After they slaughtered them and did the process where they skinned the children, take out any fecal matter or any inedible things to the humans, slice the right meat parts off like roast meat, debacterialize the meat, season it, cook it. After cooking it, they eat it. Wow, Bryan, thanks for breaking down how food is cooked and eaten for me. I would have never guessed that part on my own. That is my proof, which is the logical explanation of the truth that is found out in the roast game, which to be honest is absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, Bryan, it's absolutely mind-blowing that you just basically said the Bible is real because it says so in the Bible. There's nothing in here that says that there is proof of anything. Here is the actual problems with the roast game and why debunking it never even needed to start in the first place, because it is based on two logical fallacies. First of the two logical fallacies, and probably the simplest one for me to explain, would be the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. That is, Bryan only takes in facts that support his argument and ignore the millions of other facts that prove that it's just a load of bullshit. The second logical fallacy, and the one that Bryan tends to abuse the most, is the false cause fallacy. This is the fallacy that draws correlation and causation together. For example, Bryan will often cite the fact that lots of meats were wasted because people were buying the meats to cover up the fact that they were eating children and throwing them away. Bryan incorrectly drew a imaginary correlation between meats wasted and children eaten to support his argument. The thing about Bryan, though, is that he just machine guns these facts at anybody who disagrees with him, saying that as long as the facts are real, then so is the roast game. The problem is that these facts aren't actually anchored to anything. Bryan claims that 18 million children were killed in this 19-year span. However, I ran the numbers looking through the CDC and the World Health Organization. Unfortunately, though, if you're like me and you tried to show these facts to Bryan, he'll just hand wave them saying they don't count because they're from alphabet organizations and not to be trusted. Because, of course, some balding 24-year-old autistic kid who lives with mommy and daddy measuring poop stains on carpets as proof that fucking children were slaughtered should be trusted more than these specialists. But I'm going off on a tangent again. Let's circle back around. According to the World Health Organization, the census, and the CDC, the average birth rate per year in this 19-year span was about 3 million babies. This is important because Bryan has the exact numbers to the individual of how many children were slaughtered each year starting in 1998, which was an astonishing 977 fucking thousand, and it was consistent up until 2016, which means that the American population was slaughtering 1 out of 3 babies between the ages of 0 and 17 for 19 years. That means that 1 out of every 2 deaths, because 2 million people died on average each year according to the CDC, was from the freaking roast game. We're talking about extinction level events. This means that more Americans died in the roast game than every war put together. You can't make this shit up. And others have asked Bryan in the past, how did multiple organizations that don't get along and millions of people all collaborate together to keep this hush-hush? And Bryan claims that they never tried to. It was so culturally normal, and that after they slaughtered them, they just chucked their bodies to go rot in the lawn. Well, that's really convenient, Bryan, because how come there's no documenting of it if it was so normal and no one was ashamed to cover it up? You know what other things that happened in American society that was considered normal? Yeah, slavery, but we don't see anybody covering that up and only a few people talking about that. Also want to point out too that it's like super convenient that you said nobody's trying to cover it up, but then earlier stated that people bought and wasted Christmas meat on purpose to cover up the fact that they were eating children. These two things are mutually exclusive. They don't add up. Lastly, Bryan claims that he has the exact count of children that survive and now live with prosthetic asses. Well, here's the thing I find funny about that, Bryan. How come you know the first, last, and middle name, including the location and exactly how their bodies were positioned at moment of death, yet you can't provide anybody who survived to come and give a testimonial? The problem is there's no proof. You just have a bunch of circumstantial evidence floating around in the air, kind of like, I don't know, any other conspiracy theorists that exist. This is why no one wants to entertain your argument. No one's biased. They just don't want to debate you because you're an insane conspiracy theorist who gets belligerently angry the minute they even try to argue against the roast game. You shit up every thread you can find on the internet with your BS of videos that nobody ever watches. Makes you look kind of insane. You want me to believe in the roast game, Bryan? Well, the burden of proof is on you, not the collection of random evidence. Take your freaking Adderall. But look, I'm gonna be real. I'm not gonna pretend like I thought that somehow I was gonna convince Bryan that he was wrong. I just wanted you guys to see how insane he is. Because inevitably, like all conspiracy theorists, he will cling to these delusional ideas, ignore reality, call you biased despite being biased himself, and then say he won. Obviously, you should know that you're not smarter than.
Me dropping out of high school.
So this is the part of the story where Bryan and I really started to clash. Granted, this came 2 months after my Gallagher memes on Bryan Mullins video, which I thought would actually get a reaction out of him, but he ignored. So I thought, maybe he's not the gullible lolcow I thought he was. That's when Grigella-chan came into the picture to prove that he was and still is. Grigella-chan, who unbeknownst to us at the time was a well-known spurg for just saying the most off-the-wall shit possible out of nowhere, joined the server on January 4th, 2024, making claims that she was a victim of Lolcow convoy. And to be perfectly fair, we've had a lot of people join the server after the Pedo Hunter Civil War, either wanting to speak out about Kaz or Lolcow, so this wasn't really that strange. She immediately got into the voice chat and said that she was ready to talk to us. She even asked if her girlfriend could join, and Pooh said yeah, he was being very accommodating. But she left before we could even start the chat, saying that she just suddenly felt uncomfortable. Her claims included saying things like Lolcow Convoy or another YouTuber named Jedi Griffin, who would infamously be known in the server as Ben Mazza, doxed her and that he yelled at her and called her mom. Then it started getting a little weird. Greg started saying things like he has 1,007 minors in his server. We asked her if there was any proof of this, and she said, please, I don't want to show proof. It'll make me cry. I'm scared. Then continue spouting random nonsense that nobody understood, defending herself against claims that nobody was making, and continuing to sprinkle in these outrageous claims that Lolcow did things and said things. She eventually just stopped talking about Lolcow in totality. People asked her to come forth with her story, but she insisted she didn't want to talk about it. Gilded Pooh even told her in public and in DMs that she could take her time, which she was very willing to repeat to us every time we asked her to tell her story. After a while, she just began spouting random nonsense that had nothing to do with anything, and people were becoming annoyed by it. Her behavior came off so childish that people were telling me that they thought she was a minor. So I eventually just put her into Clog, which is effectively Gilded Pooh's version of a jail chat, where she wasn't able to gum up specific topic chat rooms with her profanities. She would just write penis and balls and sex all the time. So in the Clog she would remain until she eventually just left the server. But this is unfortunately not where the story ends, or else I wouldn't have brought it up in the first place. So who else would she turn to after leaving Pootopia other than Bryan Mullins the Fox? Bryan, being the gullible lolcow he is, bought all her nonsense hook, line, and sinker. He didn't ask for any evidence. He's even stated before that it's okay if she lied.
Miscommunication happens sometimes. Victims can get their own stories wrong, misremember some important details, and even lie about some aspects of it.
Wow, Bryan, it's almost like it's easier to verify what someone says is true before you make a statement about it. Make yourself look like a dumbass. That way, you don't have to be the next Lyle convoy making 1,000 addendum videos every 3 seconds. You know, it's almost like you care more about the clout than you do helping the victim. Sound familiar? Unlike Bryan Listen and Believe Mullins, I'm not going to expect you to take my word for it. Just listen to this call where he clearly took everything that Greg was saying at face value for fact. But by all means, remember while you're watching this to relax and enjoy the cringe.
Okay, so my experience with Morbid, Lio, Cass, Warfox, and Coyote Lovely.
Oh boy, and we're already off to a great start. Isn't it awesome that like every time Greg tells the story, it's always dramatically different than it was before? Now Coyote Lovely and Kaz Warfox are involved. Just insert topical person here.
So I was on Twitter one day back in 2020, and this chick happens to be almost my friend. I was 18 at the time. What happened was, she flat out admitted that I was telling her all these things about Lio and all of that. And Lio decided to tell me, because I was shaking, because I don't know what to do. I was 18 at the time.
Oh my god, I don't know how they stayed in a call with her for 26 minutes, because so far, she said a lot of words, but also said absolutely nothing. So we're going to fast forward until I get to a good part, but just remember, she said she was 18 at the time.
Lio doxed me. Because he thinks I'm a predator, which I'm not.
He probably knows you're not and needs someone to project onto to make himself look good.
And then I know Ben's sock puppet account. Hold on, I'm gonna get it. Ben Mazza stalked your account, by the way. So after I told, about it.
Who? Who did you tell?
They decided to do a gang up after me. So there were, because he's been like flirting with me when I was 18. No, I think when I was 17 he did it. It was. It was.
So magically now we remember that we were a minor. Oh my god, we just remembered that 18 is the age of consent. We need to dial it back a little bit. So I'm not going to go much more into this. This video is long and it's boring. If you want to watch it to make sure I didn't cut anything out of context, you're welcome to go take a look at it and view the whole thing yourself. Let me know if I got something wrong. I'll even post it in the description below. So after this call, or I assume after this call, Bryan uploaded a video called The Gregula Evidence Part 1 video, very important. And if you watch it, well, you'll just see a bunch of random screenshots where she told people that Lio was doing bad things to her. There's actually no evidence that Lio did anything. It's just Gregula making baseless accusations. Meanwhile, Bryan Mullins eats it all up like he's Lamar Odom snorting coke at the all-you-can-snort hooker house. Sorry for the interruption again. You see, President Gallagher forgot to add something here. Bryan points out here that Gregula told him that Lio's been accusing her of this for the last 10 years. But if you recall earlier in the screenshot that I will show here again, she told us that she was 19 this year. So in order for this to be true, that would mean that Lio would have to have been accusing her of this ever since she was at most 10 years old. Now, why is this important? I'm not a Lio defender, but I highly doubt that he had a 10-year-old in his server. But that's besides the point. The point is that Bryan was so eager to listen and believe that he didn't even do the basic math and figure out that this was probably just a lie. Back to the video. Bryan opens it up with a screenshot of Greg asking someone to date them, saying she's 18. The person replies that they're a minor, is that okay? And Greg saying yes. Even if this was a minor baiting them, Greg should have said no. Maybe Lio was going somewhere. Maybe she is just a creeper. Two of the other more hilarious things that actually happened in this video is he says that it makes no sense that she's a predator if she has a girlfriend. Why yes, Bryan, no one who had a significant other has ever molested a child before. The other moment of hilarity comes from the fact that he opens with a screenshot that says, here's proof that Gregola was set up and baited by other minors into engaging with them. And then the last thing he says before he shows the screenshot is take all these screenshots with a heaping handful of bullshit. Is this evidence or not? Or do you just not know what words mean? Now you might be wondering to yourself, Gallagher, what does this have to do with you? And what does this have to do with Pootopia? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, Bryan, in his infinite wisdom, took all these baseless accusations and put together this story in his head that there was an elaborate gay-op in Pootopia with the sole goal of silencing Greg so that way Lio could get away with all the atrocious evil things he did to her. Now, if you're a fan of Gilded Poo or myself, you'll know that we don't get along with Lio. He's definitely not in the server. So why does Bryan think that? Well, simple. It's because there's a user named Spazador in the server who, as a joke, Gilded Poo changed his name to Wish.com Lio. Bryan then assumed that this was Lio because of his
high-functioning autism.
So after figuring all this out like the proper troll Gilded Poo is, he decided to change his name to Lio's alt account, which all but confirmed it to be in fact Lio's alt to Bryan. Yes, Bryan thought that Lio got in the server and changed his name to Lio's alt account. That's the kind of person we're dealing with here. And just to hit it home that this is a common trend for Bryan, another user who's no longer in the server, whose name is BetaBrush18, contacted Gregola after she left the server in DMs, telling her straight up, I am Ben Maz's alt account, and that was all it took for them to believe it.
Claim at that is that, if I'm not mistaken, one of Lio's and Ben Maz's alts were in Gilded Poo's or Oliver's server.
Here's another example of Bryan's intelligence shining like the brightest star in the sky. You see, Gilded Poo uploaded a video that was clearly AI of Bryan saying some pretty racy stuff, if you know what I mean. Because of the lack of wrinkles in his brain, he assumed that Gilded Poo posted this thinking it was real when it was obviously not. How did he come to this conclusion? Simply, Gilded Poo never said it was a joke. You see, the irony behind all of this is that, well, Bryan is literally the most gullible person that I know. For giggles and grins, I took an old op that was publicly busted by Foxager, recycled it, half-assed it, and spat it back out on Bryan, and he just fell for it. He can't help himself. So here's a quick backstory for context. Basically what happened was that Gilded Poo got into a spat with another person who doesn't matter. I trolled her by photoshopping Poo's face onto a mugshot and then using expect element put out that he was on probation for possession of bestiality, which she believed. I then created an account on Google pretending to be his parole officer from a made-up place known as the Missouri Department of Animal Protection. I used that same email to try to contact Bryan to ask him to help me in the investigation. Unfortunately, I could not find Bryan's email at the time, so I just did the next best thing. I used the email to no shit create a YouTube account and leave a comment on one of his videos or community posts, I can't remember, and Bryan believed it. He actually thought a parole officer reached out to him on YouTube to ask him for help on an investigation. How do I know Bryan believed this? Because I made up a name for Gilded Poo. Oliver Allen Smith. A legendary name. Why? Simple. I came up with the name by Googling what was the most popular first, middle, and last name in the state of Missouri. It's hilarious because Bryan listened and believed Mullins not only said that he had evidence that Gilded was in trouble with the law, but also still believes his name is Oliver.
Gilded Poo's or Oliver.
And he never even asked me for evidence. I just made a statement under a very obviously fake account using a picture I got from thispersondoesnotexist.com. So yeah, a little bit ironic that he called Gilded Poo gullible, but maybe I'm being a little uncharitable to Bryan. Maybe he just can't help it. But if you ever needed a reason to understand why you can't trust anything he says, besides any of the other dumb shit he says, well, this is it. It gets even funnier because in fake Angry Neo style, he uploaded a rant video where he was super pissed off.
Hi everybody, I am Bryan Mullins the Fox for quite an angry rant.
As one might expect from a video called Angry Rant, this is about to be really funny in an ironic way.
In my part 1, I only said wow when it's shocking and a bit sensational, but I still kind of took it with a grain of salt.
When the lie detector test determined that was a lie.
They have nothing other than words, arguments from ignorance and incredulity, and basically nothing that I can make a response video out of.
I laugh every time I hear this part. You guys have nothing to use against me except for the bad arguments and dumb things that I've ever said. Yeah, no shit, Bryan. It's like a criminal being caught on camera and then telling the police, you have nothing but video evidence that I did this. Also, I like how the reason he's upset about this is because he can't make a video out of it. Bro, you're making a video right now.
The whole point of this video is that I never listened to fucking believe. I listened to verify.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I'm not even gonna pretend like I know what that means. What does listen to verify mean? What are you verifying? You don't listen to verify, you listen to get information and then you verify the information. I'm just so confused. I don't know what listen to verify means. It just sounds like something Bryan retroactively made.
I made it the fuck up.
To sound like he wasn't the idiot he is.
Gregory is her dead name. It's Gregayla now. It not only proves the ableism of Lio, but it also stems from just complete confirmation bias and complete ignorance.
Now hold on just one gosh darn second there, mister. Now I might not be the most well-informed on the lingo kids use nowadays, but I'm fairly certain that dead naming someone is something that falls more under transphobia than it does ableism. Just more proof that Bryan likes to use words that he just learned yesterday. I also love when he talks about confirmation bias or just biasism in general. If you took a shot during a 1-minute video of the weakest alcohol that you could find every time he brought up the word bias, you would die from alcohol poisoning at the 20-second mark.
Then to listen to verify that she's not a predator, she's not a pedophile, she never was, and anybody that tries to convince anybody else otherwise is a liar.
Oh. That's funny. I don't remember anybody ever accusing her of being a pedophile at all. I also love your black and white fallacy there of, you either believe her or you're a liar. I don't know, Bryan. Sounds like more listening and believing to me.
And I disavow Gilded Poo and Grimskull even more.
How do you disavow someone more? You either do or you don't.
I made sure that I got things correct.
Oh really? You verified all the facts, huh? I wonder if that will bite you in the ass in the future.
You know what? I never want to go through any of this shit with listening and hearing people out about Lio or others ever again. I am done. Gregayla, I can safely disavow you. Despite the fact that you all memed on fucking Neora and her multiple schizo post frenzies and all the bullshit she says that makes not one lick of fucking sense.
You know what? I'm going to be fair and say I agree with Bryan right here. Neora's schizo posts didn't make any sense, and neither did her rage bait video. Actually, let's see all the similarities between these two videos.
That's fucking it.
Seriously,
I can't even believe I have to address this. I can't even believe it.
I can't fucking believe you.
But all that aside, fuck Gilded Poo, fuck Gallagher, fuck Pootopia.
Fuck you. Fuck anybody.
Well, you know what they say. Furries of a feather, Lolcow together. I guess these two should just change their persona to Lolcows or whatever.
Why the fuck am I obligated to reject everything she says? Part 1 evidence video only showed aspects of the gay op I haven't seen before. Not every single screenshot, but even if it's every single screenshot, that does kind of prove the gay op.
Wow. Well, as you can see, Bryan really enjoys his Joe Biden-inspired rants. What is he even saying here? How do you know a gay op exists if you just admitted you'd never seen it before? You literally called the video evidence. That means that you know it exists. Like, this guy is just, there's a gas leak in his house or something, I swear to God. Whew. Okay, we're almost done. Just 2 more videos, I promise. And guess what? I'll even make this one super short because a lot of it has to do with things that, I quite frankly just don't care about. And besides, we'll cover those later. So let's just skip to the Greg parts because they're the funniest. So this video is aptly named Addressing My Old Worries and Calling Out BS, aka the Gregula Chan Part 3 video. And yes, like me, you probably noticed that the word evidence is strangely absent in this title.
Hi everybody, I am Bryan Mullins the Fox.
You know, I keep forgetting to point out that I really hate this internet trend of people introducing themselves in their video. Like, no shit, I know who you are, I clicked on your channel.
For the third and final installment to the series, proving and verifying the innocence of Gregula Chan.
Yeah, you know, I'm not even really sure why he's even continuing the facade at this point. Like, is he just thinking this is a soap opera?
Why you went after me for supposedly listening and believing her, while you unironically listened and believed Lio and Ben themselves against her or anyone else against her.
I just don't have any words at this point. Like, how many times are we gonna have to go back and forth on this? Like, we didn't talk to Lio. Like, we didn't take Lio's word for anything. Like, she just acted like an idiot in the server, and we bullied the shit out of her, and she left. No one took Lio's word for anything. No one accused her of being a pedophile. No one said, oh shit, Lio called her this. Like, you're just inventing new realities. Like, this never happened.
Gallagher, the moral flaggot that made an entire community post bitching about how Gregula was supposedly spamming penis and balls in their server.
Wait, why are you using a qualifying statement now? Greg says that these things happen and you automatically believe it, but I show evidence that she did spam penis and balls and sex in the server, and now it's supposedly. Also, funny that you called me a quote-unquote moral flaggot. Let's look at examples of Bryan Mullins totally not being one himself. Cue the music.
Because I feel like she needs to move on, she needs to recover, and she needs help. And I'm supposed to help her in the most effective way to where anyone can just fucking leave her alone. Gregory is her dead name. It's Gregula now. It not only proves the ableism of Lio, but it is paramount that you check up with them. That way you can correct them and correct the story for the victim. I had my suspicions, doubts about, and concerning the safety of Jordan Delez after he, quote-unquote, moved out of Lio's house in Spring, Texas. I worried that even if Jordan did move out and Lio noticed all this stuff going on, Lio was going to somehow find out where he is, and then the worst case scenario would inevitably happen, a potential murder or even murder-suicide in which Jordan is murdered and Lio takes the cowardly lion's way the fuck out. They harassed and bullied Gregula. They, as in Gallagher, Gilded, Grimskulls, or Adamantine, and others in their server, away from reaching out to them.
Well, holy shit, Bryan, you pearl clutch any harder and they'll fucking turn to diamonds. And if you're wondering who this Jordan is, they go by the name Mintheart. That's the part I didn't care about earlier. You see, Mintheart was an adoptee of Lio's who moved out after a falling out, and Bryan just hallucinated that Lio was gonna murder him for some reason. I don't know. But he later on admits in this video that he was daydreaming about it all day because he wanted to make a video about it for clout. Yes, that's the pearl clutcher himself, guys.
And by God, if the worst case scenario does happen to Jordan Delez sometime down the line in February, you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna talk about it, spread awareness about it, and make an entire video about it like I've been sitting on for months.
Who makes a video about a murder-suicide that hasn't happened yet and sits on it for months hoping that it happens so they can release it? Jesus Christ.
Every human lies. Don't just dismiss somebody because they're human. Just because someone lied more than once about Lio one time or another does not mean you should be that asshole who ignored her.
He wastes so much time in this video gish-galloping about what listen to believe means, and then goes on to say that you should believe someone even if they're just a habitual liar. The problem with Greg was she didn't just lie once, she lied about a lot of things. So yeah, I'm gonna tell her to fuck off, and I would tell anybody the same thing if they just came to the server just lying about everything. I'm not gonna be like, well, you know, you said 50 things to me and 49 of them were a lie, so let me just try to figure out if that one thing you said was the truth. No, that's bullshit. No one does that.
Yeah. Shit does happen, but I don't want to give them all that much energy and power. I don't even feel like it's worth the anger just to scream in my mic like a fucking banshee.
Oh shit, guys. He's starting to reach into the coping handbook of losing internet battles. He's on chapter 1. Act like you don't want to give your enemy energy. Like, bro, You made videos after this, and you've made videos before this, and you're going to continue making videos about this. You're not fooling anybody. We all know what you're going to do. This playbook is tired. Put it away.
Screenshots can be faked, doctored, or outright not exist when it matters the most.
You know, it's a real shame that Bryan will never have the capacity to understand the irony of this statement, considering that he uploads hours of videos where it's just screenshots over circus music.
That is just another lie told to me by Gregela, but you never know with even Gregela herself. All of this drama started because I gave Gregela a chance.
Wow, what a retelling of history. This didn't start because you gave Gregela a chance. This started because you heard Gregela's story and immediately made an accusatory video that we launched a gay op against her. You could have given her a chance by just talking to her in private, but no, you had to get that sweet, juicy clout.
Nothing else of value happened in this entire situation/fiasco. And as a matter of fact, after making and posting this video, I am moving on from the saga, meaning that part 3 is the finale. And a disappointing one at that. But at least I tried. I'm starting to think that there's now this pattern of her lying simply because others lied to her about who and what she is at this point. And that pattern alone is what I'm catching on to, if I'm not mistaken and if I'm perfectly honest. Meaning that she literally lied to me, and that the whole grooming allegation against Ben Maza is either likely true or likely false.
Likely true or likely false? Was there another option?
There's nothing I need to do now. I'm done. There won't ever be a part 4, thankfully. I am Bryan Mullins the Fox, signing out. You know what? I never want to go through any of this shit with listening and hearing people out about Lyle or others ever again. I am done. Gregela, I can safely disavow you. Bye.
So I know I already showed this part before, but this is literally it. This is the end. He spent all this time, energy, and effort pearl clutching and trying to listen and believe. He made himself look like a complete fool, then admitted that he had been lied to and disavowed her in the end. What was the point of all of this? Why did he do this? The world may never know. Here you go, Bryan. Congratulations on the what? 200 collective views you got from milking this? It's funny because throughout this whole thing, he keeps saying that he didn't listen to believe, but then he literally describes himself listening and believing. So I don't know about you, but I feel like I beat this horse dead enough. You know, the king of redundancy pretty much did the work for me. Now we can finally move on to the last video, which is also, thankfully, the last part of this video.
You force a lolcow, this is the end result.
So this is finally it, the last video and also the last chapter on this epic saga that you have all journeyed with me on. The video in question, which is appropriately named Gilded Poo When Forcing a Lolcow Goes Horribly Wrong, is all about, well, Bryan defending himself against the idea that he's a lolcow.
All you want is content. All you want is a lolcow to define all lolcows. Yet, you force it every fucking time. And even those that are lolcows seem forced, just like content coming from those lolcows are as forced in humor as current-day contagious laughter compilations. And there's a good reason why I stopped watching those contagious laughter compilations for a while. Hopefully they'll find something new and find something interesting to present to the world. I'm not a fan of lolcow channels, in fact I kinda hate them.
And then there's this gem that he said in the last video we took a look at.
I would have actually been a lolcow myself when I'm thankfully not now, and never will be.
As an amateur writer, I follow the golden rule. Show, don't tell. You see, Bryan is really worried that we think he's a lolcow and that maybe other people might think he's a lolcow. Instead of trying to convince you that he is or isn't a lolcow, if you haven't come to that decision already, I'll just show you an assortment of videos that he's put out in the past and you can come to that determination on your own.
I've had this kept in a box in my laundry room for over a year and like 2-3 months. And that's why my morning didn't start out right. I only got between nearly 6 hours of sleep to almost 6 hours of sleep. There you go.
Okay, I've watched this video like 5 times and I legitimately have no idea what the hell he's doing right here.
I'm about to take out the trash shortly, but there's one thing I'd like to do. Fucking hell!
Here's one of him doing a little on-the-ground research where he investigates the crime scene of a victim of the roast game.
Damn, this is a long slaughter stain. Oh wait, that's not where it is. I think this is where it is. Because, see, I think that's where like most of the decomp came from. So, you think that's where the head was?
Sure. Yeah, God bless whoever this was. I don't know if it was his dad or his brother who took him out to go measure poop stains on the carpet and entertain this idea that people were killed and eaten in this house. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever you say, man, just don't fucking kill me. And then there's this video, which I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea why he even put it online.
It's this. It's called the organic throat coat.
The organic throat coat, you say? Well, you know, I know some people who'd be willing to donate you their organic throat coat, if you know what I'm saying. But you know what? I bet you didn't know that Bryan Mullins was a quote master. That's right. You never heard one of his quotes? What about this one? It's world famous.
My tail is wagging. That means I'm happy. My eyes are open. That means that I'm awake. My tongue is out. That means I'm a fox, and I'm always full of loving energy, just like every other furry around me.
Are you sure your tongue's not out for some of that organic throat coat? Okay, yeah, I'll stop. And then there's this absolute delight where Bryan just scarfs down an entire bag of potato chips with what I can only describe as the best lighting I've ever seen on a YouTube video. There's a lot more of these gems in his Bryan Mullins the Furry channel, so go check that out if you want to, see him microwaving fucking wine. On his comedy archive, there are some other nightmare-inducing videos where he just giggles, and it's just him giggling and nothing else. Yeah, sorry. That's probably going to cause some nightmares and some maybe trauma to your brain. You're not going to be able to forget that one. Again, I apologize. Other than, hilarious videos that he's made in the past, what about things that he said? That's right, the linguist Bryan Mullins the Fox regularly goes on Joe Biden-style rants. In an effort to not make this video longer than it already is, I'm going to not include things that I've already put on this video. Let's make this fun, shall we? How about an arbitrary top 5 list of the most insightful things that Bryan Mullins has ever said?
And the fact that Mr. Colt uses his channel sub count as an argument against me is disingenuous, because I know that's disingenuous. He's an example of what you consider an asshole taking his own bait. That quote-unquote bait being his own. I have a life. I proverbially touch grass. Not that I literally do, because that's gross. Stop talking to vaginas.
And of course, what else could be number one other than this video where Bryan ODs on red pills and tries to be like the next Sneeko? Everything he says in this video is its own treasure trove of ridiculousness. I'm not even gonna go over anything. I'm just gonna let you look at it and you can find out for yourself what I mean by that.
First one, damn near instantaneously. The idea or the myth that to no longer be a virgin by its own logic is to have sex with a woman, which is only a cultural idea not based on physical, sexual, or even mental or racial traits.
Ah, yes, leave it up to Bryan, I dropped out of school Mullins to come up with this incredibly intelligent, groundbreaking discovery that you don't have to have sex to lose your virginity. I mean, can you really blame a guy who looks like this for thinking that?
That's why. To be a Sigma male is just like being the main protagonist or a hobbit named Frodo from The Lord of the Rings.
Ah, yes. Every time I fire up Percy Jackson's 2001 classic, the first thing I think when I see Frodo is, this little fucker isn't banging chicks left and right because he can't. It's just, he doesn't want to.
To be a successful man, all you have to do is dominate yourself before dominating others. Focus on yourself before focusing on others. Focus on accomplishing things you can do and being something that you are, being some person that you are, not being someone that you're not, and most certainly not doing something that you can't or don't do.
And lastly, my favorite standout of this whole video.
Or seek women in their lives. Frodo is much more important in dominating himself before dominating others. And no, I don't mean masturbate, because first off, every Joe on the internet and in real life jags off every once in a while and doesn't have to be Frodo fucking Baggins. And two, he doesn't have to suck himself off because all he could do is breathe, and that's better than sucking yourself off.
So there are probably a lot of questions going through your head after hearing that statement. Mine was initially, does Bryan think that autofellatio is a common thing that men do to themselves? Then after mulling it over in my head for a few days, I realized he does think this because he does it every day. Bryan is constantly liking, commenting, and favoriting his own comments on all of his videos. He even predicts the success of his videos before they even come out. An honorable mention goes to a reply that Bryan made on his own community post, which of course he liked and favorited, saying the method that I used for proving the roast game happened is called praxis. It's funny because praxis is the method of proving something is real by doing it to prove that it's real, which means that if Bryan did this, he ate babies. Just goes to show that Bryan learns new words and then retroactively decides that that meaning was how he figured out the roast game was real the whole time. I swear, he has less continuity than Disney Star Wars.
And it confirms the worst. Somehow Palpatine returned.
In other Lolcow behavior, there's Bryan's outrage over the use of people mimicking his voice to say funny things with AI, which is funny because you would think that someone who uses literally AI for everything would be more accepting of its usage.
This episode is about how knowledge is power, and those that fail to prove the opposite has the special effect of people literally making AI-generated audio bits, cloning your voice, sucking them off. They genuinely want and need a Lolcow so bad, yet every time they try, it gets less and less funny. As if it was ever funny at all, which it wasn't really.
So I know humor is subjective and all, but what makes the AI Bryan so funny compared to the real one is AI Bryan says things that are rooted in reality and logic, which is the opposite of the real one, hence why it's funny. Man, you know, Bryan was right, I do have to explain jokes, that's the only way they'll ever be funny.
Some jokes may be wordy at times, but sometimes it's necessary for it to be. Hence why you need to explain the meme.
And finally, the last bit of Lolcow behavior that Bryan exemplifies. He calls people like myself and Gilded Poo cowards because we edit our comments. I don't understand why Bryan finds this cowardly, considering that he too also has edited comments in the past, both on YouTube and on the Medicare forums. He also likes to do things like block people and then continue to comment to them despite having blocked them. Bryan, what's the point of blocking someone if you're going to continue to watch them and comment on their stuff? That doesn't make any sense. With all that being said, we finally have to come to the answer. Is Bryan Mullins a Lolcow? Well, here at Gallagher Memes, we only have the best trained butchers certified in grading the meats of the Lolcows. We certify Bryan Mullins USDA Choice Prime, the highest right next to Wagyu Lolcows. Congratulations, Bryan. You are the Lolcow to end all Lolcows. And there you have it. That's it. That's the end. Bryan Mullins is a furry Christian, and the roast game is quite simply his Sonic Chew. With all that we covered, I feel very comfortable in my evaluation that he is the Lolcow to end all Lolcows. From his oversharing, his documenting everything on his life, his furry obsession, his jumping into drama with little or no evidence or idea what he's doing, and then realizing when this shit's too deep, he's got to run away and abandon ship. Fortunately for me, when I say that I'm going to put something to rest, unlike Bryan Mullins, I mean it. I am not going to make another video about him again, and yes, I know he's going to continue doing more dumb stuff. He's going to continue making a fool about himself. Awesome, good for him. You guys can tell me how it goes. Like I said, I'm not gonna bring this up again until I'm in therapy.
It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Goodbye, everyone. I'll remember you all in therapy.
Thank you all for joining me on this, and have a good whatever time of the day it is. I'm gonna let Bryan Mullins see you all out. Goodbye.
Hi everyone, I am Bryan Mullins the Fox. Unfortunately, Arthur Gallagher was exactly right all along, and as it turns out, my roast game theory was horseshit all along. I'm sorry for leading you all on, I'm not actually autistic. Gregory is a retard and I don't stand by him anymore. Bryan Mullins, signing off.
Hi, Levi.
Alright, imagine a world where a furry, a person who LARPs as an animal, developed something of a conspiracy called the roast game theory. Now, bear with me, I'm a little drunk right now. I'm on my 4th or 5th bottle of Cryo Voodoo Ranger, which is 9.5 alcohol volumes or whatever. Fuck it, I don't really care, right? He created this thing called the roast game theory. Now, I had incorrectly assumed when I first heard this that it was something logical, like, oh, bunch of friends making fun of each other, much like, you know, a roast of a celebrity that you would see on Comedy Central, where they prop some celebrity up and have a bunch of other celebrities just, you know, take turns poking fun at them for some charity or something. I was gravely mistaken. The roast game was
finally inner peace.